Question for you. Why the fuck would anyone be vegan? All right, what's up? We out here, Honolulu, Hawaii. Got the beautiful view behind us. Up here, 33rd story. And what we're gonna talk about is veganism, vegetarianism. Now, I wanna talk about this because Victor is undergoing transition right now. Had a very cool experience, and I thought I wanted you to share this experience with us today.
Okay. It's actually kind of very morbid. I've been friends with Ryuji for a while now. And, he's always been vegan, since the beginning of our friendship. Well, not really, but for a long time. For most of our friendship, he was vegan. But we started living together and we started hanging out a lot.
We started dating too.
Yeah, and then I stole him from his girlfriend, and then, it just happened. But after a while, I was watching them eat vegan, and I realized I was like, wow, there's so many great benefits to it, but also just the way that, animals are treated, it's just kind of cruel. But I kind of just was numb to it. I just kind of like allowed it to happen for myself. I was just like, okay, I'll eat meat, but I don't think about the animals being hurt in this process. I kind of just like put it in the back of my mind and just kind of ignore it. Then one day I was just in, our room. We were just chilling, and I was on Facebook, and I saw this girl share this video of a mother who beat her baby. And you see on the baby's face, it's like completely just swollen and red, and the baby's just crying non-stop. And I just imagine if I was in that pain, it's pretty much unbearable for me to think that a baby would go through that and not have a way to just let out her feelings except cry. And I realized, I was like, if I feel this terrible, I was on the verge of crying. I was in so much pain just watching the baby. And my goal in life has always been to be a light and be a good example and spread out good, positive feelings and just be a positive influence on society. So seeing that baby, I just felt so much pain for the baby. And I thought, if I feel this much pain for a baby being hurt, why don't I feel the same for animals? It's the same thing. This baby is helpless. It relies on her mother to protect her and to help her survive in this world. And animals are kind of just, living in farms or wherever they are, and they think they're gonna be okay. And they're just helpless in the process when we kill them and we eat them. So I decided, I was like, I'm gonna go vegetarian and I'm gonna stop eating animals. And I'm in transition, and I realized that I've been told a lot that animals, when you eat animals, it's a lot of pain. So you're kind of eating murder. That's what a lot of people say. But for me, when I eat it, I feel a lot of negative feelings when I eat them because there's so much guilt involved. So once I cut it out, I started feeling less guilty, and I just feel a lot better in that process. And I feel a lot lighter and more awake, and I have a lot more energy in that process.
Thanks for sharing, dude. Yeah, I think that, from my experience, a lot of vegan people or vegetarian people that I meet that are vegan or vegetarian for ethical reasons, that means that they're either against the way the animals are treated in factory farms today, which is really cruel, and I encourage you to look it up if you're not informed. Or, some people are also, for example, for me, I think farming inherently is kind of fucked up. But, whatever their stance is, oftentimes I find like that comes from understanding that animals are just other beings that live this earth. And ultimately, we as human beings, we're just another species of animals too. It's like, we're just lucky to be on top of the food chain so that we can fuck up everything else. We can fuck over every other animal. We can fuck up the planet. And there are no consequences on us because we're at the top of the pyramid. But anything below the top of the pyramid gets fucked by that process. And the thing is, for us, we're just lucky to be born human beings, that we can be at the top of the pyramid and not worry about this. But it's important to understand that, ultimately we are all just animals. And, however, 70,000 years ago when the agricultural revolution happened, I might be wrong on that, on the dates. But anyways, before the agricultural revolution happened, we were just another species of animal, like roaming the earth. We're just like these silly monkeys. We're going around picking fruits, going hunting from time to time. But it was not like we were this big deal. Like we didn't take over the earth. And so I find that a lot of people who become vegetarian or vegan understand that we are just in our species of animals. Like the way that I became vegan was I was reading a book that had nothing to do with this. It was called *Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind*, which is an awesome book, and a lot of like very thought-provoking ideas in there. It's a history book that talks about the forces that shaped history rather than the events. And one thing it talked about at one point, it talked about the slave trade, and it was talking about the slave trade in relation to capitalism, which was the emergent economic system at the time and the dominant one today. And the point it was saying was that basically in capitalism, the main goal of the game is to create profit. And so other things, for example, like ethics or what's right and what's wrong, sometimes gets thrown out the window. And which means that now when bad things happen, it's not necessarily that bad people are doing them. For example, like slave owners were not necessarily thinking that they were bad people, but they were just making a living the way that they knew how to make it. All right, and also beyond that, what really struck me is the consumers. Say back in the slave trade era, and you're in England, and so all the cotton, the tobacco, was there in cotton, tobacco, and sugar, sorry. It's embarrassing. Cotton, tobacco, and sugar. Any product that you consume that has one of those three things basically came from a slave plantation. And the thing is, like, when you're consuming that, you probably didn't think about that, right? Like, someone in England drinking tea with sugar probably didn't think the sugar came from a really fucked up place. But the truth is, it did. And I thought, if I went back to the era, well, I probably wouldn't consume all these things knowing what slavery was all about. I don't think I'd be like, I'm going to buy a cotton shirt now because I know where it comes from, right? If I could time travel. And so I was thinking about that. And then later in the book, it was talking about factory farming, which is the dominant way in which animals are raised today. And it's this really fucked up way where animals are completely commoditized and basically treated in a way that's really cruel in order to get them as fat as possible, as fast as possible, or in the case of like chickens or cows, produce as much eggs or dairy, and there are a lot of fucked up processes behind that. I'm gonna switch arms because my arm's really tired. Just worked out, that's why we're shirtless. That was weird, but anyways, yes. And so, that's a really fucked up process. And I was thinking, it's kind of the same thing. Like, for us as consumers, when, because I wasn't vegan all my life. So for the majority of my life, I ate meat, dairy, eggs. I would buy leather products, wool products, silk. I wouldn't really think about all these things. And I realized that it wasn't because I'm a bad person or anyone who's not vegan or vegetarian. It's not that, they're bad people. It's just that that's not something you think about. Or, worse yet, it's something that you're not aware of. And it's no one's fault that no one's aware of this. It's rather that the world is set up in a way where these things are hidden because no one wants you to know. It's like these companies don't want you to know that they're treating animals horribly and that animals are suffering beyond your imagination. Like they don't want you to know that because it's not like we're inherently assholes, right? Like people like us, we can see that and then turn around and be like, yo, what's up? That's fucked up. So, there's a lot of, like all this stuff is very hidden. And on top of that, it's like, it's not something that we're used to thinking about for anything. We never think about where the stuff we consume comes from. And so for me, well, I think now that's something to be aware of and think about, like where does all this stuff come from? Like even when you buy a shirt, when you buy something, like where does it come from? When you do something, who's affected by this? I think those are important questions to ask because, there are real things that happen. Like when you eat an animal product, there is a real being, a real sentient being that had feelings, hopes, aspirations, they could feel physical pain and emotional pain. And that being suffered, and that suffering is behind what you're consuming. And, that's not something that we're used to thinking about. And so I was thinking about that, and I was like, yo, is the same shit. In the same way that I wouldn't consume, something that came from slavery back then, I don't want to consume something that comes from factory farming today. And so that's how I personally became vegan. And, but I wanted to share this today because this is a really important part of my life. And to me, it was like a turning point in my life personally where that's when I really started caring for more things. And I think that a big part of personal development is developing compassion and developing love and being able to care for, more and more people and beings. When you start out, maybe you care about your family, your friends. But, for me, the goal is to get to a place where you can meet anyone and feel love for them inherently. And I'm not saying that I'm there yet. But to me, that's something to work towards. And beyond that, love for all beings, love for animals, love for the planet, love for the environment, and feel compassion and not just understand why things are fucked up and being like, oh, this is fucked up, so I'm not going to take part in it, but really feel emotionally compassion towards those things. To me, like, that's very important. That's something that I've been trying to develop. I actually had another thought that I kind of forgot. Oh yes, I remember. And the last thing I want to wrap with is, a lot of people see being vegan or being vegetarian or giving up anything as a sacrifice, right? Because you feel like you're giving up a part of your life. For example, for me, I grew up and every day for breakfast I would eat eggs and I would eat toast with butter, and so that was like not all vegan. And and so for a lot of people, I feel that when they're like, oh, I would go vegan, but I feel like I'm giving up a part of my culture. I'm giving up a part of who I am, my habits, and things like that. And it's true, but that's just one way of seeing it. Because for me, whenever I do something, whenever I make a choice that's kind of quote unquote hard on me, so for example, being vegan or living a lifestyle where I'm like, okay, I'm going to work out regularly, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to try to educate myself and put effort into that. I don't want to see that as a sacrifice or something that's difficult for me to do. Rather, and specifically for the case of veganism, I want to see it as something that I'm embracing. To me, it's not like I'm giving up meat and dairy and I'm giving up leather products, I'm giving up all this stuff. I'm not giving it up. To me, I'm embracing something greater. I'm embracing love. I'm embracing compassion. And seeing it that way, it's completely effortless. And I never feel tempted to break that, because sometimes I have a couple of vegan friends that they would see something that's not vegan, be like, oh, I wish I wasn't vegan so I could eat that. And to me, if that's the place you're coming from, that's not something that's sustainable, and it's not the ideal place. Well, to me, in my personal opinion, anyways. So I want to see it as something that I'm embracing, so it's completely effortless. Do you have anything to conclude with?
No, I think that's a really good mentality and frame to have when you transition like this. I felt like in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm giving up all these things, but to have that frame, I think that's a very good way to approach it. So I'm going to try that. I think that's a better way to just live. I think that if you do that, I'd feel a lot better. It'd be a lot easier process. Now I'm getting the hang of it, so I'm like, I don't really mind, I don't really care. It's now part of my lifestyle. I think ingraining that into your lifestyle is a really good way to do it too, because let's say like you work out maybe 3 times a week. If you think that it's a loss of you, if you feel like, oh God, this is exhausting, this is something that I have to do, then it won't be as enjoyable if you think of it in another sense where you're like, oh, this is what I love to do. I love to wake up in the morning and feeling myself sweat and just letting all that, just exhaustion out, and just, I feel like it's a great way to wake you up too. So if you do that with your new lifestyle, just anything, just ingraining it and making it a reward, just being able to live healthily and be happy, that's a great way to approach life.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing, man. Really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. If you enjoy this content, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to Victor as well. He has a dope channel with dope content. Put a link. Actually, I'll put a little circle here as well. In any case, take care. I love you. Have a great day.
See you guys. Okay.